Well, welcome back to Alan's Day. Crusty's still in the back there working on it. This is day 13, part 13 of working on this Jeep, getting it put back together. Finally, we have a miserable day outside, rainy, sort of cold, wet, which makes me feel good about working inside. The last 12 days have been absolutely gorgeous outside, and I've been working inside. So I feel good about working out in the garage today. So let me get you in here and show you what's on the list for this evening here. Well, today we're somewhat going backwards. Reason being is I made up this bracket, this reinforcement for the bumper here, and I don't like it. I've got a little bit of crash issues with the holes here. I've got to have access to the back side of this plate to the inside the frame. So this bracket and this bracket come from Rough Country. This is part of the bumper install kit, and that's what I'm sort of based on using this reinforcement for, but it'll work on anybody's Jeep that's rusted out in the back and they need a little extra in there. So this bracket, I've got all the brackets on here. I got this in. I've got to take this off of here. So this is their bracket. But what has to go in here is there needs to be this bolt strip has to go in there. In order to get the bolt strip in, I would have to take this off of here. So I figure I bet. So what I've got going on is I've got to have an access hole in here to get this nut strip, and that's going to be located on the inside the frame. So that's one reason I got to change this out, and there's just a few other tweaks that I did on here. So let me see how this new one works here. This one's got to go in the junk. Just part of prototype product development here. So let me get started on this. Well, let me show you how to get this bumper reinforcement bracket put in here. Slides in one direction, locks in, line your holes up for your bumper, and then go through and put these bolts in temporarily in the existing bumper mount holes so that you can, because we have to line up and drill our mounting bolts on there. Just get them all set in there. We can go through and put our thread cutters in there. There, bolts are all in the holes. Now what we need to do is get bolts in here, and what that is, that's a 3/8 thread cutter with a stainless washer on there, and we're going to take and drill a hole into here. We got a 5/16 drill bit for a 5/8 hole. Make sure you put your hand up behind here first to make sure there's nothing back there, because right now it's above the fuel tank. You definitely don't want to be drilling into it and hit your fuel tank. That'll be a bad day for you. So I will get this top one in here. Nothing behind there, no fuel tank. So I've got my hole drilled in there, and we will take a thread cutter and the impact wrench, and we will bolt that in there. There. So we got the one bolt in there. I will get the other 7 bolts in here, and then we can go and we can take these bolts out of here and we could finish putting this thing together. So, and then also this little rat hole that I made in here, I had to go back and I had to open up the actual back end of this channel on the Jeep here. I had to cut that open because you're going to need every bit of that to get that filler strip in there. And this filler strip, I just had to cut a little bit of an angle on there so I can get this in there. And so it just hooks in here like this, drops in, and then you can turn it around and that's going to fish through in there to secure the bottom of the bolts in there. So don't forget to cut the little rat hole out. Oop. Now, next step is putting this bar underneath there. So I will get you set up and see what we can do on getting the bar in there. So the bar goes in here. I did have to put just a slight bend in this end for the curvature. I just took it over the bench and give it a smack with a hammer. Bar goes in here, and I'll just get some temporary bolts in this hole, these holes right here, just to secure this, and then we'll have to do our final adjustment in the back there. I've got some 3/8 stainless bolts here. Depends how much pulling or yanking, you may want to put this a grade 3/8 grade 8s in here. But for what we're doing here, we're not going to be pulling stumps with it. And there's enough other securement on here. We should be in pretty good shape. So we got that set up over there. And in the back here, we've got the bolts that were on the bump stop. So we're going to put these in here, and I'm not sure what grade these are, not what grade they are, what size they are. I don't know what I did with the bolts when I took them out of here. It's in the pile somewhere, but it seems like a 5/16 bolt works. So I've got a 5/16 stainless bolt here. Now you may not need, if you've got a vehicle that's got a real solid frame on here, you could possibly cut this down. Right now this is 3 feet. You could possibly cut it down to about 2 feet. That might be enough. Yeah. This frame is sort of rusted. The bottom is rusted out all the way up to this point here, so that's why I opted to go a foot past the worst part of the frame here. So I will get this bolted in here, and then we'll get this set up and get this thing tacked in place. Well, this side piece on here, not happy with it. I gotta make a new part, and I've got to adjust it a little bit. I got to move this one leg over this way 3/8 of an inch so I can get it lined up better. So that's all we're going to do on the back here. I'll bring you back when we get this a new piece made and start welding this thing up. But what I've got to work on tonight is finish up on the brakes. I've got to get a few more little brake lines in there. And then the next thing I got to work on is small one. When Alyssa had this inner fender off, we found that the windshield washer fluid motor is all rusted and corroded, and it looks like somebody's been in here poking around with something, because they've got all kinds of wires cobbed up in here, and they got a mess in here. So unexpected, but this is something I gotta do too. Gotta have windshield wiper fluid. So nothing too exciting tonight, but we'll just keep hammering away. Well, we're making progress figuring out this wiper motor deal here. There's two wiper motors in there. I'm assuming one of them, the upper one, is for the back window, and then this is the front window in here. So this is the cobbed up mess that I took out of here, that they just had wires wrapped together and something spliced together. I'm not quite sure all what they did or what they got here, but that goes into the garbage. And here's what I'm putting on here. Putting new ends on here, heat shrink all this a little bit longer so I can reach up and put that new one in there. So almost one more thing off the list here. I think I got this figured out. The upper motor must be for the back window, because the lower motor, probably more important to have fluid at all times. So that's why it's down here, and that's the one that's burnt out there. So I just got to hook this up. I got this all heat shrink together. This one, typically on something really important, I'll put the soldered connections and heat shrink over that. But this one, I just use heat shrink butt connectors. I filled them up with dielectric grease. Filled the butt connectors up, crimped them, heat shrunk them. That way we got it in there. And these connectors on the end, I filled both ends up with dielectric grease before I crimped them and put them together. I put a little more dielectric grease on the terminal, and we should be good for another 20 years there. And as long as I'm not running through the mud every day and in salt water, I think it'll be just fine. One guess where I'm at. O'Reilly's. I'm at the parts store. Got to the master cylinder, opened up the cap on the master cylinder that I was changing out the lines on, and it was full of black goo in there. So called them up. O'Reilly's has got them. Good place here. Well, we got out of there with a whole pile of goodies again. Just kept adding on to the list there. So goes on to the tally for what it costs to get Crusty back on the road. Meet you back at the shop so I can start putting some of this stuff in. Well, got back from the parts store. Just going for a easy win tonight. Hopefully not going to have any problems with this. Is I just have to replace the back wiper blade, but notice that it was a little frickin' crusty, had a little rust on there, so frickin' stop and just touch her up a little bit. Yeah, I just can't leave these things alone. There we go. One wiper blade painted almost. Ooh, let me show you what I got here. Running out of hands. Now I like it. So, let that dry out, get my wiper put on there. I better get up to the important stuff to get this thing on the road here. I got to get that brake cylinder put in. Well, this is the master cylinder. They come without reservoirs on there. There's about a week lead time at O'Reilly's to get one with a reservoir. So you got to take the old reservoir off the other one, and that's sort of a frickin' circus trying to get that damn thing popped out of there and then brake clean it. So what I did is on the old one, I just lifted it up a little bit and I sprayed some silicone spray around the rubbers on there, and I finally wedged it off without breaking the plastic on there. So I'll get this one put back on the master cylinder and do a bench bleed on there. They've got these tubes in this fitting, so I can get that going. And as long as I had that off, just giving her another Craigslist rebuild here, and got the can of spray paint out and painted up the canister. A little bit of rust on there. Looks brand new. Get you back when I get this whole deal installed. Well, I've got the master cylinder put together, and they sent these fancy little hose ends on there to bench bleed it. That's about a horse a piece. I've had luck with just putting that pump in the master cylinder in there and bleeding it, but we'll bench bleed it just because they sent this stuff along. And also, when I put this reservoir back on here, they had those, I put some stainless steel hardware in there to hold this tank in place. Otherwise, what they have is these rusty ass little dowel pins that seize up in there. So hopefully there won't be a next time, but at least if somebody's got to get at it, there's bolts in there, not dowel pins. So to bench bleed this, just take and fill up the reservoir here with brake fluid. There we go. And take these ends, put these into the back into the reservoir, and then you just have to go on the edge of the bench or in the vise and take and pump this, and you can see the fluid going through those lines, and that's getting all the air out of the system in there. And it'll maybe save you a little bit when you're trying to pump the brakes to get them going. Why don't you just pump that until you get all the air out of the system here. There we go. It's getting a little better. Okay, there we go. I think we're going to call that bench bled. Close enough. I will take these, pull this off of here, put the cover back on here, and I will get this installed on the vehicle and finish hooking the lines up, and maybe we'll get brakes tonight. I'm not quite sure how far we're going to get, but we'll see what happens. There we go. We'll get you set up, get this in here. Drop the master cylinder in. Easy as that. Put a little lube on the threads here. And get the nuts put on there. And top it off with fluid and get back there and start bleeding brakes. And I've got a fancy little tool for that I'm going to show you what I got. Well, here's what I found out works the best for me for bleeding brakes. It's a snap-on one-person brake bleeder. Otherwise, you got to have somebody else out here, and most of the time the other person out here doesn't like to be out here because they're sitting in that vehicle just pumping away on those brakes. So we'll see how this works on this vehicle. So what you do is you get in there and you take that bleeder screw and you loosen up the, which is right there, and where are you at? Bleeder screw. Bleeder screw in there somewhere. There it is right there. You loosen up that bleeder screw and put the end on here. And I've got a wrench on there so that once I draw it through, I can tighten it up right away so I don't let the air back. We've got fluid just starting to come through here, so I got to go up and check that reservoir to make sure I don't run that dry. But put this on there, No screaming up front telling somebody to keep pumping on those brakes. Well, end of day 13. Got a couple of things accomplished. Nothing too spectacular. Hit her again tomorrow. Thanks for sticking around. Thank you for watching Alan's Day. Life is about making choices. Some things are already perfect. Some things you may choose to upgrade. This channel will show you both. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks again.